Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Get ready, because today we're tackling a global movement that's changing the conversation around climate change. We're talking about youth-led climate action. And let me tell you, these young people are not just talking the talk, they are making things happen.
That's right. They're on the front lines, coming up with innovative solutions and demanding action. It's really inspiring to see.
It really is, and today we are going beyond the headlines to hear their stories firsthand. We're diving deep into Climate Sisters, Resisting Ecocide, an incredible book that showcases over 100 young women from all over the world who are, well, they're leading the charge for environmental justice, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And what I find so powerful about this book is how it amplifies voices that are often overlooked. It gives a platform to the experiences of young women, especially those in the global south.
It's so important to hear those perspectives, and speaking of overlooked, I feel like we have to talk about Greta Thunberg. I mean, she's become, what, like the face of climate activism, right? But one thing I found fascinating about Climate Sisters is how it goes beyond the whole Greta Thunberg phenomenon. And it shows us just how massive and diverse this movement really is.
Exactly. Greta's story, as impactful as it is just one spark in what has become a global wildfire. Remember those school strikes, Fridays for Future?
Yeah, those images were everywhere. It felt like a real turning point.
They really were, and Climate Sisters takes us behind those images. It introduces us to the individuals who are part of this massive, decentralized movement, each with their own story to tell.
Each with their own motivations, their own unique experiences. Like Zozo and Kiwi, the climbing kids from Germany, their story really stayed with me.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Talk about putting your beliefs into action.
Right. These two actually scale buildings and lampposts, can you believe that? To hang banners for climate action.
It really highlights the urgency they feel, and it makes you think twice about what you're willing to do for what you believe in.
There's this one quote from them in the book that really struck me. They said, "Climbing a lamppost to hang a banner is dangerous. The climate crisis is dangerous."
Wow, when you put it like that.
I know, right? It really puts things in perspective.
It's a powerful statement, and it makes you question who are the ones taking the real risks here? The ones demanding action, or the ones ignoring the problem?
Exactly. It's like they're turning the tables and forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths.
And that's what's so inspiring about this younger generation. They're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
They're not afraid to call out hypocrisy. And they're definitely not afraid to demand better from the adults in charge.
And that fearlessness is what has driven progress throughout history. Think about the children who marched for civil rights in the 1960s, or the students demanding stricter gun control today.
It seems like every generation has its moment, a time when young people rise up and say, enough is enough, we need change.
They have this incredible power to shift perspectives, to cut through the noise and get straight to the heart of the matter.
It's like they can see things with a clarity that we often lose as we get older.
And Climate Sisters really emphasizes how this movement extends far beyond the Western world, reaching communities that are already feeling the most devastating impacts of climate change.
That global perspective is something I really appreciated about the book. It reminds us that this is not just an us problem, it's a we problem, and we need to act accordingly. And it really highlights this term, ecocide. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah. It's something we're hearing more and more these days.
It's intense, I'll say that.
It is. It's a strong word for a serious issue.
So for those of us who are unfamiliar, what exactly does ecocide mean?
Essentially, it refers to the large-scale destruction of ecosystems, often directly because of human activities.
Which is sadly something that's happening all over the world.
It is, and what the book really drives home is that the impacts of ecocide aren't felt equally everywhere.
Right. It's not just about the planet as a whole. It's about the people and communities who are most affected.
Exactly, and the book really highlights how the Global South, in particular, often faces the harshest consequences of ecocide, despite having contributed the least to the problem.
It's easy to forget that when you're living in a part of the world that hasn't been, at least not yet, as directly impacted.
It's a privilege to be able to look away, and that's what I found so important about the story of Tiza Mafira from Indonesia. Her story really stuck with me.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Her fight against plastic pollution is incredible. I have to admit, I had no idea how bad the plastic pollution problem was in Indonesia.
It's a massive issue, and Tiza is on the front lines, working to create change.
The book mentions this crazy statistic. In 2015, Indonesia's daily emissions actually surpassed those of the United States for a total of 38 days.
38 days, that just blew my mind when I read that.
It's a powerful reminder that this issue is bigger than any one country or any one region. We're all connected.
We absolutely are. What we do here has a ripple effect around the world, and it's clear that we need to start thinking about climate justice as an integral part of global justice.
I love how the book brings that to light. It's not just about saving the planet, it's about saving each other.
Exactly, and it does it in a way that feels both urgent and empowering, you know?
And a big part of that is through the personal stories, right? Like, each of these young women is dealing with the impacts of climate change in their own unique way.
Absolutely, and they all have such different perspectives and experiences to share.
Speaking of powerful stories, the account of Catarina Lorenzo, the young surfer from Brazil, hers really stayed with me.
Oh, Catarina's story. It's heartbreaking, but also so inspiring.
Right. Her love for the ocean just jumps off the page, and she's channeling that love into action, into protecting what she cares about.
And she's seeing the effects of climate change firsthand every time she goes out to surf.
There's that one quote from her that I keep coming back to. She says, "People are getting used to polluted rivers and sewage flowing into the ocean. This should not be normal."
Ugh, it's like a punch to the gut when you read that.
Right. It's a stark reminder that what we're normalizing now, what we're accepting as just part of life, it's going to have consequences down the line.
And it makes you wonder, what are we becoming desensitized to? What are we tolerating that we shouldn't be?
It's a call to action for sure. But I have to be honest, sometimes it feels overwhelming. Like, with all the challenges that we're facing, is there actually hope that we can turn things around?
I hear you. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. Believe me, I feel it too sometimes. But what I love about Climate Sisters is that it doesn't shy away from the tough stuff, but it also doesn't dwell in despair.
So it's not just a book about problems, it's a book about solutions.
Exactly. These young women are taking action. They're not waiting for someone else to fix things for them.
That's what's so inspiring about them. Like, they're not just talking about it, they're doing something about it.
Right, they're rolling up their sleeves and getting to work, and they're doing it in such creative and impactful ways.
And they're not all scientists or politicians, right? They're just ordinary people who are passionate about making a difference.
Exactly. Like Jamie Margolin, for example. The book talks about her work with Zero Hour, which is an organization she co-founded to empower other young people to get involved in climate activism.
That's amazing, creating a ripple effect of change.
Exactly. And it's not just about these big global movements either. The book also highlights the impact of individual actions, like what Amy and Meek are doing with Kids Against Plastic in the UK. Have you heard of them?
I have. They're the ones who collected, like, thousands of pieces of plastic, right?
Yeah.
It's an incredible story.
It really is, and they've done so much more than just collect plastic. They've published a book, they give talks, they're raising awareness and inspiring others to take action.
And it all started with them just, noticing a problem and deciding to do something about it.
Exactly. They're proof that you don't have to wait for permission to make a difference. You can start right now, right where you are.
That's so important for people to hear, especially young people who might feel like they don't have a voice or that their actions don't matter.
Every action matters. Every voice counts. And these young activists are living proof of that.
They really are.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make you wonder, if these young people are the ones leading the charge, if they're the ones who are stepping up and demanding change, what does that say about the adults in the room? The ones with the power to make real systemic changes?
That's a question that really resonated with me as I was reading this book.
It makes you wonder, are they listening? Are they really taking these demands seriously?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's something that Climate Sisters doesn't shy away from.
It's a challenge to those in power, a call to step up and do more.
Exactly. And I think it's a challenge to all of us, really.
To look at our own roles, our own actions, and ask ourselves if we're doing enough.
Absolutely. We all have a responsibility here.
It's easy to get caught up in the doom and gloom, to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem. I know I do sometimes.
I get it. It can be a lot to process.
But reading these stories, these incredible stories of resilience and determination, it really left me feeling, hopeful.
Me too, These young women, they're not giving up. They're not backing down. And that's incredibly powerful.
It's inspiring, to say the least.
It's a reminder that even in the face of huge challenges, even when it feels like the odds are stacked against us, there's always hope.
And there's always something we can do.
Exactly. We're not powerless, and we're certainly not alone in this fight.
And that's what I love most about this deep dive, about this book. It's not just about understanding the climate crisis. It's about feeling empowered to do something about it.
Yes. It's a call to action, a reminder that we can all be part of the solution.
So to our listener, if you're feeling that same sense of urgency, that same desire to make a difference, I urge you to check out Climate Sisters. You won't regret it.
It's an incredible book, and it's packed with even more inspiring stories, ways to get involved, resources, everything you need to take that next step.
Because it's not enough to just talk about it. We have to walk the walk.
We do, and these young women are showing us the way.
They're leading by example, and it's up to all of us to follow their lead.
It's time to turn our words into action.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep fighting the good fight.